Welcome to Network. My name is Pumela Lezondi with your technology and social media news. It's SABC Network. Now, that's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. This week, our Twitter poll is asking you about your feelings about the fact that WhatsApp is now available on more than one device with the same number. It never used to happen before. Results of that are coming up later in the program. Here's what's coming up in this episode. We look at how network providers are fighting off or finding creative ways to deal with power cuts. We look at stats that say that South Africans spend the most amount of time on social media compared to people from any other country in the world. And our conversation looks at that removal of the Twitter verification badge. So you will realize that your mobile phone network slows down when there's load shedding in your area. It's getting better in some areas. This is because network providers have found new and creative ways to deal with the many power cuts that affect the work and the services that they provide for us.
South Africa's electricity utility Eskom is implementing the worst rolling blackouts on record as its aging coal plants fail, leaving households and businesses in Africa's most advanced economy in the dark for up to 10 hours a day. Businesses have found themselves reeling for solutions to keep things running. Telecommunications companies have taken a major hit. What's on the line is essential voice and data services in a country that is trying to develop its digital economy. Managing Director of Vodacom South Africa, Sito Mdlalose, points to backup batteries covered in concrete that the country's biggest mobile network operator has had to install to help power the site when rolling blackouts hit. The batteries power the tower for up to 12 hours with solar panels just above the container, ensuring that they are never depleted. Mdlalose told Reuters that on days of an extended power outage that runs for several days, Vodacom normally deploys a mobile diesel-powered generator on site.
Ultimately, what happens is when load shedding hits, the site goes onto backup power on batteries. But again, that only lasts for, call it 4 hours, on some of those sites for 8 hours. The batteries then need to recharge. And so when load shedding comes back, within that kind of 12 to 18 hour period, the batteries haven't had a chance to replenish. The batteries take about, again, anything from 12 to 18 hours to recharge. And so these continual cycles mean that you don't get the full 4 hours out of the batteries that you've got. And so you start to get some sites going down during load shedding.
MTN, with 12,900 towers in South Africa, is investing 1.5 billion rand in solar power, battery and generator installations, as well as an enhanced security features at its base stations.
As you know that we in load shedding, okay. If a site doesn't have batteries, we cannot provide continuous coverage and quality of service to the customer out there. So this is our backup if there's no power, unless we've got a generator. So primary will always be Eskom supply, secondary will be the generator or a battery, depends on the configuration.
Though these alternative energy solutions are financially burdensome to the mobile operators, elements of criminality also remain a persisting challenge.
The cost of rolling out the renewable energy alternatives, the cost of the batteries that are being stolen and vandalized at the various centers that they're at the towers. If you think about the cost of diesel, that that fuel keeps going out each and every month. So the moment we are on stages 3, 4, 5, 6, then the costs are just going up and up and up.
On average, we're spending as a business well over 300 million rand on just on the incremental cost, not the normal cost, but the incremental cost on load shedding. And of course, that varies depending on where we are replacing batteries, for fuel, for repairs on sites. Theft is a huge issue for us, and vandalism, theft of the batteries, theft of solar panels, that sort of thing, cables. And so the cost of repair has increased significantly as well.
Telcos are now lobbying to benefit from the same fuel rebates enjoyed by the agriculture and mining sector. and they are also seeking to save on costs by jointly purchasing and operating backup power equipment.
Social media has been important for a lot of conversations that we've had online over the last decade and a half to 2 decades or so. But it seems like it's only recently that South Africa has overtaken just about every country in the world on the amount of time we spend on social media. There's new research that says we spend about 10 hours at a go on social media. Uyanda Msomi is a Pinetown-based TikToker who's managed to garner hundreds of thousands of followers on the platform. His content often showcases his acting talent. He plays Mr. Romance in isiZulu as he spoofs popular shows and movies like Bridgerton and 50 Shades of Grey.
I think I joined TikTok last year, the beginning of last year. I saw, firstly, because I was really curious about how come I wanted to look at, okay, and then I saw, okay, there's a space in Yana that I can, fill into. And then, yeah, that's basically how my journey on social media started. I started on TikTok, and from there on, I started, exploding and then trying his music. Yeah.
His talent has even landed him TV roles, like in the most popular South African TV show, Uzalo, as well as in A Hostela.
My TikTok really helped me a lot in terms of attracting or casting director to offer me jobs. Or okay, for example, umsebenzi waki hostela, I got it through my TikTok because I got a message from casting director asking me that I should audition for a role.
Less than half an hour's drive from Uyanda is a fitness trainer Mnqobi Kunene. His big following is on Instagram.
I use Instagram more than the others because, like with the hashtags, you get to engage with more people, sometimes with people that are not your followers. So you're not only just targeting your followers, but you're also targeting or engaging with the people who are not following you based on the hashtags that you use. So it's a much wider audience.
His popularity on Instagram, he's been found by fitness, clothing, and food brands.
I do engage with people on Instagram, especially when I post about my fitness content. So whether it's got to do with future life or it has to do with total sports, that's when I get to engage with not only just my followers, but people who are not following me as well.
Mnqobi also works as a successful professional model and actor now. Uyanda and Mnqobi have managed to take advantage of the popularity of social media in South Africa. Statista says the number of active social media users in South Africa grew almost 3 times in the last 8 years, reaching 28 million users. That's about half of South Africa's population. The 2023 Global Digital Report by We Are Social and Meltwater suggests that South Africans spend close to 10 hours a day on their social media screens. That's more than any other country in the world.
You can actually say the pandemic itself actually has fueled this rise in the use of screens by different people, because as you remember, everybody was locked down at some point in time, especially between 2020 and 2022. So that period, a period of almost 3 years, I think we saw a lot of people actually relying more on their screens to actually be able to converse and communicate with people that were quarantined in different spaces, be it here in South Africa, but even across the world.
Amapiano is often said to have gained popularity because its rise was synonymous with that of TikTok.
The use of TikTok, especially in South Africa, you cannot disentangle it again from the Amapiano music and what we have seen over the last few years and how that is connected to the but to the culture of people generally that live in South Africa.
Beyond the current rise and popularity of street dance cultures and music like Amapiano, South Africans have also managed to use social media to put the spotlight on some of their local issues.
The Thabo Bester case really has also set has actually set the agenda in many cases, especially across Africa. Actually, whenever you talk to people are always asking you about that particular case, because I think it has gone across the continent, and people are actually even making very interesting memes around it, especially on TikTok, and what was happening, these kinds of things.
2 decades ago, when social media was first becoming prominent, it was not initially visible that it would shift cultures, help in installing precedents and start new conversations. But today, it's become a phenomenon that South Africans spend almost half their day interacting with. A hospital in the Western Cape has been testing out a new technology that it has received. And here's producer Sandile Hlangani telling us about this new health technology.
That scientists also have an important role in society. Yeah, so scientists also have to learn to communicate scientific results. Yeah, that can get to the public and government to have bad decisions. And that's what we do, yeah, and that's why we communicate a lot with the media, yeah. Fortunately, today I'm not here to give you bad news, yeah, I'm here to give good news that South Africa has invested hundreds of millions and billions of rand to become a scientific powerhouse, and that's the best way to really fight fake news, is to bring advanced science that have a global impact and that save lives. And that now we can partner with the world to be a scientific leader in the field. And this scientific leadership is important to prevent the next pandemic, which we think that we are one of the best countries in the world to teach the world how to do that.
So diagnostic tests will always play an important role in combating any new infections. And so by placing the technology here at SIRI to be able to detect them quickly will allow us to be able to identify cases as soon as they're happening so that we can contain them.
We should use the bigger market opportunities we have, regional and continental. One opportunity for this is the Africa's free trade zone. That's a political commitment of all leaders. But sad to say that still intra-Africa trade is only 10%.
This lab has been equipped with the most innovative technology. We have systems that are able to do SARS-CoV-2 surveillancing for not just the country but also for various other countries within the continent. We actively sequence and surveillance SARS-CoV-2 on a weekly basis, and we can go up to a high throughput with one of the instruments that I've shown you on the Nexi 2000, up to 384 SARS-CoV-2 whole genomes. So we have the capacity to surveillance viruses, surveillance bacteria, as well as to find out if there's any unknown organisms circulating, any unknown viruses or bacteria.
I think that we're in a better place than we were at the beginning of the pandemic, certainly, because we have more tools available, more people are immune, and we also have treatments, and we didn't have that at the beginning. So even if people do get infected, we can do something about it.
SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's News Network at SABC.co.za. An email. After the break, we chat about the removal of that Twitter verification badge. New owner of the platform says we need to pay for it if we want to have that blue tick. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's News Network at SABC.co.za. An email. Welcome back. Now, it's been over a week since a lot of people who'd been verified on the social networking platform Twitter woke up to find that their blue ticks were suddenly gone. I'm one of those people who woke up to find that the verification tick was suddenly gone without much of a warning. But this had been mentioned by new owner of the platform, that's Elon Musk to talk to us about the verification tweet and what it means for the tick to be gone is the professor of digital humanities at the University of South Africa. That is UNISA. It's Professor Shapin Bofu. Hello, thank you very much for being a part of our network again, Prof. Maybe if we can start by explaining what the verification badge, that blue tick, actually meant on Twitter.
The verification tick, we can say, for me at least, it meant two things. At one level, it was sort of a signal that this account shares authentic and truthful information because it's owned by a real person or a real organization. So it identifies a real organization. And at another level, really, it was sort of an ego booster, especially to those who were verified. You can get a larger following and you can even commercialize on that at some point or at another level through engaging with companies and advertising their products and sharing their products. So, but at the same time, it meant those things, but it didn't mean that they are actually true. For instance, that people will share authentic news, or people with verified tweets, verified marks are actually known for and expected to share authentic and truthful news. If you look at, especially during the COVID times, how many fake and disinformation stuff was coming out of verified accounts, you actually can see that it didn't really mean that if you have a verified account, then you're a sharer of truthful, authentic news.
But Twitter says they developed mechanisms to deal with that. So, like, for example, you'd lose the verification badge if you are seen to be constantly peddling false information, or you might even end up losing your account. Was that not enough?
We should not entirely rely on the punitive measures as stopping fake news, because the fake news or real news is actually contested in some circumstances and in some contexts, right? So you may find that the experiences of the people who are sharing what you may call fake news, they're actually their lived experiences. This is their reality. And then you have scientific reality elsewhere, and then bringing this together, and then sort of for Twitter to act as a mediator when they are not even a scientific sort of body becomes problematic. So at one level, yes, it was fine for them to have these punitive measures. But at another level, how did Twitter actually scientifically prove certain things to be false to an extent that they can actually punish or deactivate somebody's account or deactivate somebody's, remove somebody's verification badge? So even on matters that are political, and when politicians share their perceptions or whatever it is, Twitter will come up and say this is unverified news, or sometimes this is fake news, and then sometimes remove the page or remove the people. So those contestations, we need to be aware of them. But the bottom line is, at a surface level, the punitive measure sort of helped to demonstrate that Twitter frowns upon fake news and they want truthful information to be shared. But what is truthful information? What is real news? What is fake news? So those contentions or those tensions were not sort of exhausted, I think, by Twitter, because we don't have a research body to actually research medically or otherwise the correctness or the factual nature of anything. Yeah.
People have to pay in order for them to get a tick. Does it then change meaning when just about anybody can pay for this? As you say, before it was people who were celebrities, musicians, actors, big organizations, news organizations, journalists would get this tick, but now just about anybody can pay to get it. Does it change the meaning? Does it mean anything different now?
This is, at some level, trying to make Twitter to be commercially viable and Hence, he's asking people to pay for the pages. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the scourge of fake news and disinformation and toxic relationships, as it were, between the Twitter community members and whoever is engaged there is going to end. Definitely not. It remains to be seen how they are going to now deal with the situation where I have paid for this account, and therefore it's my account. Commercially, I have the right to do whatever I want. Therefore, if I do whatever I want, am I going to be removed after the payment? And if you remove me, will I continue to subscribe to the blue tick? If I think whatever I'm going to share in future will actually lead me into losing it and losing money in the process, so it becomes problematic that way.
All right, Professor Mbofu, thank you very much for being a part of our network. That's Associate Professor of Media and Digital Humanities at the University of South Africa, UNISA. It's Professor Shepherd Mbofu there joining us. It is SABC Network. On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, it's News Network at sabc.co.za. On email. Stay with us. SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back. Here's what else took place in the rest of the world in the tech space.
Beijing is accusing the United States of technological bullying amid decision on microchip ban in China. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson is indicting the U.S. of technological bullying and trade protectionism.
美国为了维护自身的霸权私利，强推脱钩断链，不惜胁迫盟友配合美国对华遏制，严重违反市场经济原则和国际经贸规则，扰乱全球产供链的稳定，损害包括中国在内各国企业的利益。这是典型的科技霸凌和贸易保护主义的做法。这种自私自利的行径不得人心，中方坚决反对。我们呼吁有关国家政府和企业明辨是非，共同维护多边贸易体制，维护全球产供链的稳定。
In Nigeria, Bolaji Fatai has never flown in an aeroplane, but that hasn't stopped him taking to the skies with a model aeroplane he built mostly from scrap, found in the dump sites of Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos.
I started this when I was 7. I started picking things around, making some little projects, and even I built cars before, but my focus was on airplanes because whenever I see airplane fly, it gives me a very overwhelming joy.
Fatai's labor of love is now propelling his dreams. A tech company gave him an internship after he was spotted piloting the plane. Moving to Australia, more than 100,000 current and former customers are filing a class action lawsuit against Australian telecommunications giant Optus after a cybersecurity breach last year compromised roughly 1.2 million customers.
It's impacted me for so many reasons. First and foremost, I'm a current victim of domestic violence. And there is a current order in place, and the release of this data has potentially breached the safety of me and my children. I've spent every day basically anxious, just wondering if my details were going to fall into the wrong hands. I've had to change my phone number again. I've had to replace my driver's license. My children have been affected. I've been exposed to a variety of scam calls and text messages. And obviously scams are getting highly sophisticated these days, so it's getting harder and harder to differentiate what's genuine and what's not genuine. So,
victims of the hacking want compensation for the time, money required to replace the identity documents and for distress, frustration, and disappointment caused by the breach.
WhatsApp, which is owned by Meta, which also owns Facebook and Instagram, recently started allowing people to have the same account on 2 or 3 different devices. Previously, this was not allowed. You were only allowed to have that phone number on WhatsApp only once. This week, Out to the Poll is asking you what your view on this actually is. All right, and that's it. That's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It is newsnetwork@sabc.co.za. On email from me, Spumelele Zondi, and the rest of the team. Have a good one. Bye-bye.